everyone. I'm Montana from Goto Retreats. Thank you so much for tuning in to our interview series where I will be having so many conversations with all kinds of special people from members of our team here at Goto Retreats, our service providers who have listings on our retreats, retreat venue hosts, and retreat planners. I also intend to talk to all kinds of people like spiritual healers, energy healers, retreat guides, anyone who really has an interesting story to tell and wisdom to share. We have so many passionate people in our community, and I'm here to help them share their wisdom and their knowledge and their stories, and to also figure out a way that we can help them share just all about their gifts and whatever they're offering the world. GoToRetreats is a platform that is designed to be your go-to for all of your retreat needs, from finding a venue, photographer, chef, or anything else you might need for hosting your retreat. You can also get retreat planning guidance from our retreat specialists here at the platform. And then also using our platform to share your unique retreat and also even booking your retreat on our platform. So GoToRetreats really does have it all. It's easy to sign up, and for the first 1,000 people that join our platform, we're offering our services for free forever. So as a service provider on our platform with a listing, you will never have to pay as a seller. That is just one of our many perks here at GoToRetreats. And today I'm going to be having a conversation with a really interesting and wise man. His name is Andrew, and he is a retreat guide in the Mount Shasta area, which is located in Northern California. Mount Shasta is a really cool place. It's known as the root chakra of the world and is an ideal location for any type of retreat. I am personally hosting a retreat at Mount Shasta at the end of October, and I also will be working with Andrew at my retreat. So I am so excited and honored to talk to Andrew today. Andrew is also hired as a senior, well, not hired, he has agreed to work with us as our senior spiritual advisor at GoToRetreats. And he has been a spiritual guide for 20 years and hosting transformative retreats at Mount Shasta. Alongside his wife, they have guided thousands of people through life altering spiritual practices. And he has just apparently, from what I've heard and seen, he has just really altered people's lives with the magic of the transformation and guiding them through such a beautiful spot like Mount Shasta. In his earlier years, Andrew, he has started a sports foundation called The Joy of Sports, which was a nonprofit that harnessed the power of sports to foster development for children. And his dedication to this cause led to his organization reaching over 50,000 children. And he actually earned a prestigious Point of Light recognition from President Clinton at one point in his life. So I am so excited to get Andrew on here with us today and for him to share his wisdom and talk all about his retreats and his experience with Mount Shasta, as well as his volunteer work. And I can just imagine that this conversation is just going to be so fruitful, and his wisdom is very honored, and I just can't wait. So I will be back with Andrew alongside me shortly. Hi, everyone. We're back. Thank you so much, Andrew, for joining us. And I'm so excited and honored to get to talk with you today. I'm excited to hear about all of your wisdom from your spiritual endeavors with planning retreats and your time with Mount Shasta. So, if you wanted to, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and start to give yourself a little introduction, telling me a little bit about you and how you landed at Mount Shasta and when you started doing retreats and anything else you'd like to share.
Thank you, Montana. Well, I was fortunate to discover Mount Shasta when I was really young, just out of college. And I came here with some friends for a weekend and just fell in love with it. And then many, many times I'd come here and camp out and do my own retreats. I was living in San Diego for 12 years and in DC for 12 years. And I think I might have only missed a year or two out of all those years. And it meant everything to me to come to Mount Shasta as my annual recharge and reset. And then in 2006, I got to a point in my life where I was able to move here. And since then, I've been living here full time and guiding retreats and sacred site journeys on the mountain, and more in love with the mountain than ever.
Wow, so you lived in the more southern areas of California, and when you were in your younger years, you used Mount Shasta kind of as like an escape almost. Not an escape, but just somewhere where you went to find some peace and inner stillness. And were you usually hiking the mountain at that time, or did you attend retreats with other people, or were you just exploring on your own?
Montana, I think I did a couple group retreats in my very early days, but after that, I just did my own thing. And I had one spot especially that was kind of remote that I went to many, many times. And you just do a mix of meditation and hiking and maybe a little bit of reading, just keep it really simple. And I always found this was a place I could really come home to myself in a really deep
Hmm.
way.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And so you've been hosting retreats there for 20 years, I've heard. And I would love if you could tell me a little bit more about your hosting journey and how you got into hosting retreats.
Well, it was pretty natural. I've been, I guess you would say, in the field of human development and spiritual awakening for a long time, one way or another. And when I came here, I actually took a little sabbatical, probably about 6 months, just to really decompress since I've been running a nonprofit before that for
Hmm.
quite a while. And then it was the most natural thing in the world to start offering to guide people here since I love the mountain so much and know it well. And started mostly by doing private retreats. And then I guess maybe in about 2011, I started offering group retreats every year.
Awesome. That's so cool. And I feel like you went into this spiritual enlightenment journey. Was there anything that, like any specific events that happened in your life or anything that you were dealing with that brought you on that journey, or was it just kind of a natural progression for you?
I was actually brought up in an atheist Jewish household, Jewish ethnically and culturally, a bit atheist. And then I just pushed myself
Hmm.
really hard to achieve. I did well in sports and I did well academically. I actually graduated magna cum laude or summa cum laude from Princeton. But
Wow.
I was getting kind of burnt out on pushing myself so hard, and I started to find a new way of being through tennis. I was already playing at a pretty good level and coaching tennis, but there's a book that came out in the 70s called The Inner Game of Tennis. It was basically playing tennis as a meditation, just focusing on being deeply present with the ball and in the joy of the experience rather than attachment to outcomes. And that was kind of my
Hmm.
entry point into the journey. And I kind of learned how to focus and be in the present on the tennis court. And then when I sat down to meditate, I was able to bring that focus into sitting meditation too.
Cool. So a lot of your learning and what you teach now and while you're guiding has just come a lot from your own personal experience. But have you also had, I know you said you kind of went to a couple retreats, but have you had any like people that you consider in your life to be like teachers or guides or anything like that that you connected well with? Or did you have anyone showing you around the
Yeah,
mountain or?
Well, I would say my main in-person teacher has been a really remarkable man named Bill Bauman. And I don't think he's ever been to Mount Shasta as far as I know, but he's just someone who very deeply awake in a stable, integrated way and unconditionally loving. And yeah, he's been a blessing in my life.
That's really cool. So in your interview, you shared me a link because I am excited to be having you guide my group. And I watched your interview, and in that you mentioned something about how Mount Shasta has been like a mirror. And so I would love for you to share a little bit with us about how you feel Mount Shasta has been a mirror not only for you, but how it can also be a mirror for other people to do their own inner reflection.
Sure. Yeah, that's one of the ways I look at Mount Shasta. I mean, there's so many ways to see the mountain, but you can say it's a mirror that when you come in its presence, it reflects the deepest, purest truth in your heart. And I think people experience that through the filter of whatever beliefs they have or whatever path they're on. Like if someone's a Christian, they might come on their mountain and say, wow, I never felt this close to Jesus in my life. If someone's a Hindu, they might come on their mountain and say, wow, I saw a vision of Lord Shiva. If someone is, say, spiritual but not religious, which is how I would describe myself, they might say, wow, I just felt this profound peace and stillness like I never felt before.
Cool. So it kind of just helps to reflect and amplify those feelings that you might already seek in your like everyday life. And coming to Mount Shasta gives you that, I guess, like kind of like a spiritual amplification almost, where whatever you're feeling or whatever your intention is, there you can kind of just really deepen that connection with whatever your kind of beliefs are.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. It's an amplifier and an
Hmm.
accelerator of awakening, and the whole mountain and the whole area around the mountains like that. And there are spots I feel that are even greatly amplified over the rest of the mountain.
Hmm.
Some people like to call them vortexes. I kind of prefer the term sacred sites, but it doesn't really matter what you call them. But there are some places on the mountain where the presence, the silence, stillness, whatever one might want to call that, is profoundly amplified even over the rest of the mountain.
That's really cool. And so in your retreats that you host, you kind of guide people through these spiritual sacred sites that you've found and that you've connected with.
I do. I do. And, I always like to say on a retreat, there's two journeys which happen simultaneously. There's the outer journey, which has gone to the sites we've been talking about. And there's the inner journey, which is every individual's experience. Excuse me. And of course, everybody's journey is different, but I've seen kind of a template or a roadmap for a full retreat, which is basically the simplest way to describe it is past, present, and future. Often the first part of the retreat is about cleansing, purifying, releasing, to use a modern word,
Mhm.
doing a good full reset, cleaning out all the gunk in the system. Then the heart of the retreat is about present. Presence about connection with whatever you believe in. And you could say present is about coming home to yourself and really, grounding in the truth of who I am. And then the third part is future. Future is about vision, next steps. How do I sustain and nurture the gifts of the mountain when I go home? And how do I align my life with the vision and higher purpose I've been shown on the mountain?
That sounds beautiful. And so throughout your either weekend retreats or days of guiding people through, you use like guided meditation, or what kind of tools do you use to facilitate having people do that release and connecting into their inner self and connecting to their
Yeah.
vision.
Yeah, certainly guided meditation is a core part of it, and also silent meditation, because I think there's profound gifts offered in the silence. And yeah, for the cleansing part, we almost always do a Hawaiian shamanistic ritual, which I found is very synergistic with a particular waterfall. Just moves everything through really quickly. And for people or groups who want to do some more specific work, I offer core belief work, which I found is very deeply transformational, and also have processes for forgiveness, which I think is very vital. And so sometimes we do dyads also, and the dyads can involve different inquiries like, who are you, or why are you on planet Earth right now? We also do rituals, which can be standing rituals involving movement. Like there's one ritual of basically offering your body to be a vessel for love. There's another ritual we do that draws upon the Native American tradition of the seven directions, as well as the I am teaching tradition of decrees. So it's like seven decrees, one for every chakra in the seven directions, that a lot of people find is very powerful. So we like to mix it up, between the meditations, the rituals, the different processes, the dyads. Nobody gets bored.
Mhm, yeah, there's kind of like a little touch of all of these different flavors of guiding that you do. That's really cool. And so you mentioned the chakras as well, and how that work that you do kind of relates to the chakras. And in my research about Mount Shasta, I've read that it is known to be like the root chakra of the world. And so I'm curious about what you think of that.
Well, I'm definitely familiar with that. It's really gone viral on the internet.
Hmm.
And I personally don't like to limit Mount Shasta to just being one chakra. I mean, the way I prefer to hold it is that Mount Shasta contains everything, including all the chakras. And if you need grounding, Mount Shasta can definitely ground you. But I think you could just as easily say Mount Shasta is the crown chakra, because it's very expansive energy and
Hmm.
very profound place to connect and open to the absolute. Or you could even say it's the heart chakra, because there's so much love. So I think Mount Shasta contains everything and gives everyone exactly what they need.
That's really, really cool to hear because I find sometimes when we label something to one item, it does become limiting. So it's really cool to hear you say that Mount Shasta can be kind of used to facilitate this healing journey on all levels of the chakra system or the body or the mind. And then that brings me to another question was that in my research, I also heard that some indigenous cultures see Mount Shasta as like the home of the creator. Do you know anything about that or how that has evolved to have this such a such a depth to understanding about the mountain?
I'd say, first of all, on the physical plane, there's a couple things that really stand out about Mount Shasta. One, it's huge. It's actually the biggest mountain in North America, not the highest, but the most massive. And second, it's pretty much all by itself. Mount Shasta is about 14.1. And usually, most places we have a 14, like in Colorado, there's a cluster of 14s and 13s and 12s all close together. But Mount Shasta is all by itself. There's nothing over 10,000 anywhere near Mount Shasta. So I think the native tribes saw this humongous mountain all by herself, and they said, "That's the creator. That's the great spirit." And so for many tribes, would come here to do their rituals. That, as far as I know, all the tribes had the belief that it was too sacred to live on the mountains, so they would live in the valleys and come here for their rituals, and they still do.
Wow, that's really cool and really special. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people who have went there with the intention of getting clear on their creative visions. And I know even for Cam, this is a story that I hope to have him on to tell, because on his day where he launched Goto Retreats, he went to Mount Shasta. I think that he met you that day or around that time, and he had a session with Corazon, and he really said that he experienced the full feeling of alignment while he was there, and that connection to his vision and his purpose. And so in that, it's really cool to hear that the spirit of creation lives within this mountain, because I can only imagine the potential that it has to create this inspiring forward momentum energy for people when they come to experience a day with you there.
Yeah, it's definitely a great place to receive vision. One way to describe Mount Shasta, you could say the veils or separation between dimensions of reality are thin. So it's easier to receive, messages or vision or just energy transmission from the higher dimensions. And yeah, there was one time in my life I received such a powerful vision that really shaped the next really 15 years of my life. I was camping on the mountain, and I remember it was a full moon night, and I just got this whole download of moving to Washington, D.C. and starting a nonprofit to do sports programs to help kids develop in body, mind, and spirit. And the vision was so compelling that I couldn't say no to it. And so I moved forward on that and got all kinds of help from human angels, and it unfolded really beautifully. It was hard work, but it was very fulfilling. And it all came from the vision on Mount Shasta.
Wow, that's incredible. And Cam was telling me a little bit about that experience for you, and how with that nonprofit that you started, you helped over 50,000 children was it, can you tell me a little bit more about what the idea
Yeah.
behind your nonprofit was, and how you came to help that many children?
Sure. I was really inspired by the Greek model of sports for the development of the whole person. I don't know if you know, but for example, people like Plato and Socrates were champion athletes as well as
Wow.
amazing philosophers, since there was no sense of the body being split off from the mind like there is today. It was all one whole. And so, unfortunately, they didn't have gender equality back then. That was way before Title IX. But at least for every young man, sports were an integral part of their training. And so I was really inspired by that vision. And I feel like we've gotten somewhat off track with so much emphasis on just winning at all costs and performance. And so I wanted to see if I can kind of revive the idea of sports first and foremost for the development of the whole person. And so what we did is we would develop programs. We started with tennis, which was my main sport, and we also developed curriculum for soccer and basketball, and also a non-sport specific curriculum called the Star Power Program, which is for young children. And all the programs integrated specific sports skills or movement skills with life skills like self-esteem, concentration, relaxation, imagination, cooperation. So well, what we would do is we would partner with organizations which had children and were looking for enriched programming, schools, boys and girls clubs, child care centers, groups like that, which had the kids and were wanting programs. And we would come in and either directly offer the programs to the kids, or train the staff of the organization how to deliver our curriculum.
Wow, that sounds really cool to be able to bring that full body and mind connection to children specifically, and getting them to have access to stuff like that is really incredible. And so over your time there, you helped over 50,000 children kind of find that, using sports to find that inner connection. And then um, Cam said that that also eventually helped you to, or got you to receive a really honorable award from someone. Did you want to tell me
Yeah,
about that as well?
sure. Yeah, there was something, I'm not sure if it still exists, called the Points of Light Foundation that was started by the first President Bush and continued by President Clinton. And they would pick one person every day as a point of light. I think mostly people who are doing service in one way or another. So I did it the honor of being chosen for that sometime in the mid 90s under
That's
President
really
Clinton.
cool. And then eventually, from there, you kind of let that go in order to come and pursue your passion of guiding people through Mount Shasta and to be able to, would you say that doing these retreats and guiding people through this full embodied journey of in through the past and the present and the future is kind of something that you would consider your purpose in here in this world? And what do you feel about that?
Very much so. I'd say my
Mhm.
overarching purpose is definitely to awaken and coach and support others in their awakening.
But yes, so that is amazing to be able to come to Mount Shasta and to come into your or one of the realms of your purpose. And I think that you have had a lot of experience in your life where you've probably been able to dive into many separate purposes throughout your journey. And would you feel that this is one that is more meaningful, or do you have any other kind of purposes that you've done and moved on from? I guess one of those would be kind of your nonprofit and helping. But yeah.
Yeah, I've had the privilege to have three different careers, and all of them I feel came from my heart and were aligned with my purpose. The first being tennis coach, and really through tennis, teaching people how to be in the present and also how to deal consciously with success and failure and let go of attachment to results. The second was the nonprofit we talked about, and the third is guiding the tours and retreats on Mount Shasta. So yeah, I feel like I'm on track and I'm grateful for that.
That's amazing. And so, now moving into a little bit talking more about the GoToRetreats platform, is there anything that excites you about this platform and being able to have retreats become more accessible and have retreat hosts be able to find you and use your services? Do you feel like, um, how do you feel like that will kind of change the way that people work within the retreat space?
Well, first of all, I really like Cam and really admire his energy and enthusiasm that he brings to it. And the truth is, I wasn't really especially looking for a new way to promote the retreat since I already have a really thriving business. But Cam's energy is just so infectious, and his enthusiasm and his sincerity and integrity that felt right to be part of what he was doing and to help him in any way I could.
Yeah, we're really grateful to have you on board with supporting GoToRetreats, and his vision and his passion can just be felt when talking to him. It's something that really brought me on board with everything as well. Um, so, going back into talking about retreats, is there anything that you would say can help differentiate between like what a good retreat is versus a not good retreat? Have you ever had anyone who has had an experience that maybe wasn't exactly what they had
Yeah,
wanted it to be, but probably was what they meant to have, they needed to have in
yeah.
that moment?
Well, sure. Nobody bats 1,000, and of all the people who've gone through the retreats, I can't honestly say everybody uh, got exactly what they thought they came for sure. But I think we have a pretty high percentage. And as far as the first part of the question, what constitutes a good retreat? I think having all those three phases I mentioned and really giving each its due, the cleansing, the landing, in grounding, awakening, and also the integration. I would say, from my experience, where a lot of retreats, as well as a lot of workshops and transformational experiences of all kinds fall short, is a lot on the third phase. They might do a good job helping people to release, let go of the past, and really have a profound homecoming or reconnection. But they don't really give people the tools and strategies and steps to ground it. So I think a lot of people might go to retreats and have a great time when they're there and feel really good when they leave, but in 2 or 3 weeks, they've kind of gone back to the old habits and energy patterns. And I'm a life coach, by the way, as well as a retreat guide. So one of my priorities is always helping everyone build a bridge from Mount Shasta to
Mm-hmm.
wherever they're going back home. So, to me, it's really about living it. And that's my passion. And that's my intention is everybody comes here, not just has the best experience of their life, and many people do, but really comes home with gifts that they're ready and they have a strategy how to sustain the momentum and live the gifts they've received and live their highest mission.
Yeah, that's amazing. In my past retreat, that was something that was really, really prevalent. The girls all came and they had such an eye-opening experience into what they needed to let go of and where they wanted to move forward. And then when they all went back home, they had messaged me like about a week later saying that they had kind of fallen back into their old habits and routines, and they really wanted some more guidance on how to continue to bridge that. And so what would you say in your retreats makes your retreat stuff unique, and how do you help facilitate that bridge? Is there
Well,
anything you
sure.
specifically do?
Yeah, well, first of all, we everybody does a vision quest, and not the traditional Native American where you go off for a week and fast by yourself, but everybody goes, with a lot of priming and with instructions of how to do it safely. Does have some time to go off on their own, usually just for a few hours, and not overnight. So we do it in a way that's very safe, but also powerful since they've already had, at least a couple of days, if not several days, of immersing themselves in the energy. And,
Mm-hmm.
and over the years, I've kind of learned how to give instructions for a vision quest to help people to optimize their experience. So we do the vision quest, and then people journal about that, and then we do a few things for integration. One thing is I have what I call integration questions. I ask people to
Mm-hmm.
journal about and share about. Integration questions are questions like, what are the gifts you received during this retreat? What specifically can you do when you go home to nurture and sustain these gifts? Is there any area of your life you're ready for a shift or a next step of some kind? And if so, what specifically is that? So we have people really consider them and journal about them and also share them either with a partner or with a full group. And then we have a couple of rituals we usually do towards the end of every retreat that are very grounding and just really meant to take the energy and experience and really bring into your whole body and connect it with the earth.
That sounds incredible and is such an important part of any kind of like retreat journey, is having that integration and taking what you learned, especially because I think I can see myself, or a vision that I see for the future is more and more corporate retreats happening where people from the corporate world maybe hire someone to plan a retreat for them, and then they come to Mount Shasta and they have this massive experience where they know that they need to shift the way that they're living, and then I can see how people could get lost in that on the way back and go
Yeah.
back home and get into that, regular day to day. So it's really cool that you make it an intention of yours to help facilitate and like create that bridge. And then do you also work with clients like one on one after your retreats at all, in the life coaching realm of things?
Yeah, I do a little bit of that. I used to do a lot more of that, but
Hmm.
honestly, I've got so many people coming for retreats these days that I really prioritize serving the people who are here and
Yeah.
do my best to offer some follow-up support. And the main ongoing thing my wife and I offer, we do free Mount Shasta meditations every month on Zoom, which gives people a way to stay connected. And, when people reach out to me, I always respond to emails. And if someone's really wanting to do life coaching, I don't really try to promote it too much, but if someone wants to do it, I do my best to find time for them if I feel like they're really sincere.
Cool. And so are your meditations for people who have just come to retreats, or can anyone sign up for those meditations?
Meditations are open to the public, and
Okay. How would they find those?
it's on my website. My website's Mount, spelled out MOUNT, Shasta retreats.net. That's the homepage. And if you want to get to the meditation page, you would just put it's called a backslash and then meditation.
Cool. I definitely want to come to those because I think it would be so powerful.
Well, I'll send you a link, Montana. The next one's May 16th. We pretty much always do the third Thursday at 6 o'clock
Awesome.
Pacific time.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, we can start to wrap up our interview portion. And is there any kind of final things that you want to touch on around your retreats, yourself, your own vision moving forward? I know you're starting to slow down a little bit in terms of taking on new tasks because you're focusing a lot on these retreats. So I'm just curious, is there anything else that you kind of have any final remarks?
Sure. I'd like to just emphasize even more that Mount Shasta is amazing. I've been to a lot of mountains. I haven't traveled too much internationally, but I've been to the Rockies and the Sierras and the Tetons and the Smokies and the Appalachians and lots of the beautiful mountains in these United States. And every time you go to the mountains, it's a blessing. There's always a peace and a presence. But I can say from my experience, Mount Shasta is just in a whole different octave than those other mountains, a whole different level of consciousness and energy. So this is not just another beautiful mountain. To me, Mount Shasta is honestly like heaven on earth. It's just a place where that pure love, or you could say happiness, the word Shasta comes from the Russian word shastia for pure happiness, is just very present and, very accessible right here. So I really, encourage everyone to come to Mount Shasta, whether or not you do anything with me. It's totally worth it to come to Mount Shasta. This place is amazing, and anybody who comes here with an open heart receives incredible gifts.
Mm, that sounds beautiful, and I can't wait to come and experience Mount Shasta with you and to have host my retreat so that I can bring and share the gifts of Mount Shasta with other people as well. Thank you so much for joining me for this little conversation. There's so many little nuggets of wisdom that you've offered, and I'm really honored to have you on here. And we're honored as a team to have you as a spiritual advisor at Goto Retreats. And to have your support is really, really important to Cam and to us. And we look forward to speaking more with you in the future and having you as part of the team. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop our recording now.
Thank
And
you.
thank you to everyone who's listening.